Good morning. The first day of the second week of the second season of what we laughingly call 90 minutes of prime time with Webster in the morning. And when I look at my beady eyes this morning, I wonder what the devil I'm doing sitting here talking to people at all, because occasionally I suffer from spleen. Sometimes the spleen is a little bit delicate. And there's a subject I'm so mad about, but I can't really yet work up a good case to be really lividly angry about it. And it's about the change of government in Canada. God knows we're glad to see the last of Pierre. We think we're glad to see the arrival of Joe Clark. But there's an atmosphere developing in this country which makes me somewhat sick. And that is that patronage is something good, desirable, and wonderful that any democracy should aim for. Now, we know when the new boys come into Ottawa, they're obviously going to chop the heads, when they make up their mind, of people like Bryce Mackesy, rejected federally, rejected provincially, placed in a cushy job as the top man, chairman of the board of Air Canada, and he's got to go. And we know that the Austries have got to go. One is on... what the devil are they on? Sylvia is Stats Canada and the Economic Council, and hubby Bernie is Deputy Minister of Communication. And we know that all the boards, all the crown corporations, all the cushy jobs over the past nearly 20 years have been nicely filled by Liberals. Some are competent, some are not. Some are hacks, and some are the worst examples of jobs for the boys. Well, last week in Kamloops, it started off with the local MP announcing, tried to get him on the phone, couldn't, but I've spoken to him, Cameron his name is, saying, in effect saying, there's going to be a blacklist of all lawyers in Kamloops who didn't vote the right way or didn't work for the right party, or they're not going to get any jobs. Now, one of my favourite politicians of all time, in his own quiet way, is John Fraser. And John Fraser, who now holds two portfolios in the new government, comes out with, in effect, the same comment that suitable lists of lawyers are being appointed to do all the government legal work in British Columbia. And he'll be the guy who makes up the list, and he'll be the guy who decides who makes a lot of money and who makes nothing. Agreed. The Liberal patronage was appalling. The jobs for the boys was disgusting. But nobody seems to want to aim to any decent standard of public morality whatsoever. The test for working for the government of Canada, or for working for any crown corporation, should be skill and merit only, and nothing else. And meanwhile, you read the Bruce Hutchinsons of the world and the Toronto Globe and Mail and all the great pontificators, and they say, oh, well, patronage is the great Canadian way of life. It's going to be, but just think of what's behind this patronage caper. Just pause and talk about it for a moment. What jobs are available? Well, the political boys will get the political jobs. They'll clean out the CBC board of directors. I don't know if Jolivet is still on it or not. Paul Plant and these kind of people. They'll clean out all these. Bryce Mackesy's got to go. Petro-Canada, Mitchell Sharp, the pipeline commissioner, has got to go. Pierre Camus is gone, so they can replace him on the CRTC with a Tory. But just think about the legal profession for a second. From now on, if a boy is going to be a success as a lawyer, Harry Rankin, that great Democrat of all time, the treasurer of the Law Society, a man who certainly won't get any government jobs, should make it mandatory for every lawyer to nail his political affiliations to the mast right off the top. Because with government taking over everything, you won't get work as a lawyer unless you can say, I'm a Tory, I'm a Liberal, I'm an NDPer, I'm a social creditor. Now, we know what's going to happen from Fraser's lists. He's going to go down the list and say, you will be the special drug prosecutor at $1,000 a day or $100 an hour, which is not at all uncommon. You will handle the foreclosures for AHOP, Central Mortgage and Housing. You'll work for Petro-Can. You'll be the legal counsel for Air Canada. You'll get the very cozy, cushy job of being legal counsel for Mother Corporation. You'll do this negotiation with the municipal government. You'll do that negotiation with the provincial government. Now, if I were a Tory lawyer, which God forbid I'm not and never will be, God forbid I'll ever be a lawyer, because I'd hate to have my common sense thinking confused with all their stupid technicalities. But if I am a Tory lawyer, and I get my appointment from John Fraser next week, I'm going to pad my bills. Why shouldn't I pad my bills? Because I am the favored person. So we'll have an automatic inflation increase of 50% in my legal bills for the government corporation, because I know that because I'm favored, they're going to pass my bills. And then, of course, my office and my staff will be fully and freely available for work for the chosen party. You see, we shall work for the Conservative Party. I shall be at every reception. I shall be at every fundraising campaign meeting. And therein lies the seeds of the worst of patronage. It's not graft and corruption, don't misunderstand me. Graft and corruption is money under the table for no tender contracts for friends of the government. And we've had lots of that in the past, if you want to trigger my memory just a section. But let's, for goodness sake, remind the John Frasers of the world, who are excellent human beings, who have got lots of integrity, that the test for to be employed by this or any other government must be, and I'm a dreamer. I know I'm a naive half-wit. I know I'm full of naivety, and I know I'm a nitwit. But the test, if we're ever going to have efficient government, has got to be three things: qualifications, skill, and merit. I know it's too much to ask. Not 1 in 100 people watching me just now gives a damn about patronage, because that's the way the system works. Let me tell you, patronage is another little hole in the coffin of democracy. Boo. Take that from my beady little eyes this morning and think about it. Funnily enough, my first guest this morning, too, is going to be a lawyer. I hope he's still talking to me. Craig Paterson, a Vancouver lawyer, who we're going to deal specifically, however, with a story with a very happy ending. It's a compensation board case. It's the Carruthers case. And then for light relief, remember last year? A very funny guy. I don't know if I can stand him this morning, but later on, when we finish with the serious stuff, the Ben Wicks. After the break.
Okay. 30 seconds before.
I'm feeling a little bit guilty this morning. I get many off-air calls about compensation cases, and I have a standard, fairly brutal way of questioning. One, do you have a union? If you have a union, get your union to look into it for you. And then if I'm chatty, I'll say, is it a back injury or a head injury? And they'll always say either back or head. And I'll say, how long ago was it? And they'll say 20 years ago. And up to now, I've been saying, 20 years ago, forget it. How wrong I have been. Not in every case, perhaps, but in my studio this morning, I have a Vancouver lawyer, Craig Paterson, whom I've asked to come here this morning to give me the facts on an incredible case involving, I suppose, Craig, you could call it a fairly happy ending. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so.
And perhaps you'll take the story from 1954, when this man, who wants to maintain his anonymity, and I think we'll respect his anonymity, although you and I both know it's a real case, fully documented, and somebody will dig it up if they want to follow the story. Perhaps you'll take it from 1954 and give me first a rough outline of what happened to this man in British Columbia.
Well, this man was working as a chokerman somewhere in the interior. One day on the job, he was hit in the head. I don't know whether it was the chain or the log, and suffered a unconsciousness, was unconscious for a week, 10 days, something of that nature. Was taken to hospital, examined, was released after about 10 days, I think, 12 days, told that he was fit and able to return to work, and away he went. And between 54 and 73, he kicked around at odd jobs here and there. He couldn't drive machinery, operate equipment. He had spells from time to time, started coming on, where he'd lose his memory for a slight period of time, but he never put it down to anything. And
Let's get the time frame right, though. 25 years ago, working in a mill, working in the woods, was it?
Right.
Working in the woods, he gets hit with a chain.
Right.
Fit for return to work after a small period in hospital, back. Compensation claim made at the time?
No.
No compensation claim made at the time. And then in 1973, which is 19 years from today, he finally takes it out. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what happened in 73 was he was working with a couple of pals at something or other, and he had one of these spells, and it was apparently a very serious one and lasted a period of time. The guys he was working with said, look, you better get some medical attention. There's obviously something wrong with you. He went into VGH outpatient clinic. Neurologist said, you've got a form of epilepsy, and it's due to that bang on the head in 1954. With the help of a group that existed then called the Disability Rights Association, he put in a claim and was awarded a 15% pension in 1974. Then we saw him in 78, and we got it
To stop you
reopened.
there for a moment, 1974 when he got the 15% pension,
Right.
that would be 15% of what level of salary? What he'd be making in 1954?
Yes, because the principle of it is that the person should not be worse off than he would have been had he not suffered the injury. So they used the earnings as of 54 brought up to 73. What would a chokerman be making in 73?
Any idea what, can you tell me what the 15% pension was in 1974?
What it amounted to?
Yeah.
I think, well, I'm just guessing, Jack, but I think it was about $100 a month or something like
Then
that.
it was a picayune amount of money.
Yeah, it was pretty small.
$100, that's 1974.
Right.
And then, why did he come to you in 78?
Well, I think there was some publicity that we were doing cases and this sort of thing, and he came along to see us, and we had him examined by a leading neurologist in Vancouver, and that neurologist indicated quite clearly that his degree of disability was much more serious than 15%, and that he'd suffered it probably all the way back to 54. We went through the board processes. The board's own consulting neurologist shared the opinion of the doctor we'd obtained, and he got his pension bumped up to 85% and made retroactive to 54 with the payment of interest. That was to compensate him for all the lost wages between 54 and 73. Of course, they only paid 5.5% interest, or just under 5.5%, and in the courts you pay 8.5%. But anyway.
Let me get this straight. In 1978, when your neurologist was confirmed by the board neurologist,
Right.
were there documents available in the files from the original injury?
A couple of letters from the consulting doctor at the time, that's all.
Thank God they hadn't been lost.
Well, that's right. But,
And having done that, did you have to go through a whole group of tribunals, or was it done by direct negotiation with the compensation board officials?
it was done in this case, by direct negotiation with the Disability Awards Officer, where we put forward the man's work history, representations of people that knew him and friends about his period of spells in the past. He had a full gamut of psychological tests done by the board. We had 2 or 3 appointments with the doctor and the board's doctor and the Disability Awards Officer, and fortunately, in this case, a decision was made right there that we didn't have to appeal through a number of avenues, which is the normal case.
So what he got there for was the pension increase from 15% rate to 85% rate,
Right,
back to 1954,
1954.
with 5.5% interest paid on the money he hadn't received through these years.
Right.
Which came to the sum of?
About $96,000 lump sum payment, and he now gets $850 a month pension.
$96,000 back, retroactive, 5.5% interest lump sum payment, and a permanent pension for $850
Yes,
a month.
right.
But what happened to the man who values his privacy, and we had thought we might have him on, but we didn't push it. What happened to the man in the years between? What did it do to him?
Well, this man is he's got quite a good sense of humor and is a very intelligent man, and he doesn't have a demanding style of life. He slowed down. He worked for 5 years, for example, on a small commission basis, selling a rural newspaper. He got involved with tree pruning service, and he goes out and does commission sales and things like that. He leads a singular lifestyle. He's by himself.
Perhaps that's why he's by himself, because of this injury and the problems related to it.
That could be. It certainly affected his life in pretty dramatic ways. There's no doubt about that.
Did you see a big change in him at all when you were able to come up with a $96,000 lump sum cash settlement and $850 a month?
No change in the man at all.
They tell me he was responsible, however, for one. Oh, maybe you can tell me that after this break. Craig Paterson is my guest, and it's encouraging to know that if you have the right information and pursue it properly, that the Compensation Board will go back to 54. Does that mean they're admitting a large mistake?
Well, you could say that. I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that?
Not in this case, no.
In other words, it was an intelligent, common sense reassessment when it was drawn to their attention.
In 78, I think in 74, he should have got his full pension in 74, and it should have gone back to 54. We shouldn't have to fight it again in 1978, but that was the only mistake by the board, I would say.
Webster and Craig Paterson after this break. I'm talking with Craig Paterson, a Vancouver lawyer, on really a happy ending to a miserable story. A man who was injured in 1954 in a logging accident. And in 1978, his claim, which had been, in 54, did he apply for a compensation award?
Well, they may have paid his time loss for the time he was off work when he was hit. I can't recall. But
all he got was the time loss, we'll say it, the most, in 1954. Right. Then he came back in 73. What was this condition he suffered from? Was it?
It's a particular form of epilepsy. I'm not sure whether it's petit mal or grand mal, or they have different titles, different names, different effects. There's all sorts of different kinds of epilepsy, which is actually one thing that's not known. It's often confused with somebody being slow mentally, or somebody being an alcoholic, that kind of thing.
And meanwhile, he suffered right up until 1973 with no recognition of it until the Disability Rights Association put him in front of the board and got him a 15% pension of a few dollars a month.
Right.
He was lucky he didn't injure himself all these years, not knowing what was wrong with himself. Or did he know that he had epilepsy?
No, he didn't.
He didn't know?
No.
Just used to go into the odd trance.
That's right. He would remain conscious, but he wouldn't be conscious of his immediate surroundings. He'd start talking about sea voyages, this or that thing, and it would last for a matter of seconds, I guess 10 seconds to half a minute, that sort of thing, and then he'd click right back into where he was.
Make it impossible for him to take any job in any hazardous industry, however, with that condition.
That's right.
The condition was not under control in those years?
No.
Is it under control now?
By medication.
By medication. $96,000. Has he told you what he plans to do?
No, and I haven't asked him.
Plus, we wanted to ask him, but I don't blame him for, keeping his privacy. But the important thing is, that I shouldn't gaily tell people because their claim is 20 years old that they should forget it. Should I?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, the bottom line is what is their medical condition? And is their medical condition plausibly related to something happened on the job
But if I
X
come
number
to,
of years ago?
Yeah, but if I come to you and I'm 53 years of age, which I'm not, and I've got a bad back, and I've got 3 compensation claims for back injuries, that's an almost impossible case to take, isn't it?
It's difficult. Back cases
Because they'll
are
tell
the
me I'm
most
suffering from my normal degeneration
That's
of my
right.
doohickeys.
That's right. That's right. And you know, there's a lot of different opinions about that kind of condition. I wouldn't think that your back condition might be particularly aggravated by your work here, but might be.
It is. I've got to carry the whole weight of the program on my own shoulders.
If we found a sympathetic and sensitive doctor who shared that opinion,
But you were telling me a very cute story about our friend, the $96,000 man, we'll call him. He's a very intelligent guy.
yes,
Something happened, though, in his relationships with the compensation board, which caused him to change procedures.
yes.
What was that?
Well, anyone who's injured has a head injury. Usually is run through a psychological test, and also they do a profile of people in order to assist them with rehabilitation, and they run them through a computer test, and then they feed the results of the test into a program which has a number of jobs in it, and on the basis of your test results, they're supposed to kick out jobs for you that you could do. And I was told that there were about 30,000 potential jobs. And when they put this man's test results into the works, out came one job only, and that was as a male model. And this man is about 48 or 49, and he's a few pounds overweight and balding. And he's not an unattractive man, but he's not the typical newspaper male model. So apparently, as a result of that, they discontinued their contract with the company that had
The psychological testing people.
That's right.
They'd forgotten that appearance is something else too in relation to being a male model.
That's right.
What is your general advice for people? I hate to open this can of worms. What is your general advice for people faced with compensation if they don't have a good union representative? What do they do? Is it possible for a person to go to do they still have advocates at the compensation board or something?
Yes.
Who are supposed to go through the case of those non-represented workers?
Yes, there are compensation consultants that you can get hold of in the phone book under the Department of Labor, and ask for Maria Giardini. Then there are various union representatives, some of whom will act for people who weren't even in their union. That's
Well,
quite
Sam
often
Brown used to do that, but now he's way up on high on the compensation board, and he's gone.
Yes, he's a commissioner now.
He's a commissioner now.
But Sam used to do that.
Oh yeah, he used to do it, and so did Bill White of the Marine Workers and Boilermakers Union. Not Bill White. Forget the guy's name anyway.
yeah.
The Mine Workers Union.
Well, there's Bruce Elphinstone at the IWA, and Al King at the Steel Workers. He's done a lot of that in his time.
All right, next question. If one is involved in an industrial accident, even though you think it's minor, and this is something that doesn't get across, what should the injured person do to make quite sure, if it turns out to be like the $96,000 man, to make sure his injury is properly recorded? Because many a time they'll come to me and say, I didn't file a report until 3 days later, there weren't any witnesses, and I'm sure you know that rigmarole better than I do. What is advice to the worker? What should he or she or it be sure to do?
Get the best possible medical advice and opinion that you can from a specialist. If it's a back case or a knee or an elbow or something like that, you've got to get yourself in front of the best possible orthopedic surgeon that you can find.
What about when the event actually happens, though?
Oh, well, they should shoot in a report to the compensation board right away. They should shoot in a report to their employer. They should get their union involved in supporting them, and they should get right on top of their claim. The problems aren't so much when the claim goes in. It's years later when it's a question of whether or not they've got any disability. That's when
Surely one of the problems, especially in small non-union shops or non-organized shops, surely one of the biggest problems is the witness
No, well, there's that. The biggest problem in the non-union shop is that it's non-union. And I mean, I might advocate organization of them, but really that's a real problem, Jack, is the unorganized worker, because they've got nobody to represent them. You talked earlier about patronage this morning. On the legal side, one of the real problems in this province is there's no civil legal aid system. So nobody who can't afford representation can really afford it in any meaningful way.
Just meant no civil legal aid system?
There's civil legal aid only for a very limited number of matrimonial cases. Otherwise, there's nothing for UIC, welfare, unemployment, workers' compensation, civil actions. You can get a staff lawyer on occasion, but you can't go out and get a lawyer in the market and have it paid for through an insurance system. There is no civil system.
Mind you, just an offhand remark, when I was present at the opening of the People's Palace, the luxury People's Palace of Law, and I hesitated to count the number of judges who are involved in the administration of justice in a $160 million building for a mere 2.4 million people. We'll all finish up as lawyers and judges and plaintiffs and defendants. There'll be nothing else happening in the province.
How did you happen to get an invitation to that?
As a member of the press.
Oh, I see.
The press were invited. I wasn't invited as myself.
It's quite a spectacle, wasn't it?
I'm waiting to see the first time that a protest group gathers underneath the glass roof in the public area, which is so beautifully carpeted. Craig, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm grateful to you for coming this morning.
Thank you very much.
Give our best regards to the $96,000 man and tell him it would have been very nice to see him, but we'll leave that to somebody else.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you, Craig Paterson. Webster. Next, I don't know if I can face him. Next, you'll see who it is after the break.
I'm drawing again, am I drawing again? Am I drawing again?
If you want to.
Yeah, okay, no, I don't mind. I'll leave it.
Every time I see my guest this morning, since the last time, a sad and tragic picture comes to my mind. It's that of his stillborn sister being buried between the legs of a fire victim somewhere near the Elephant and Castle to save the cost of a separate funeral. And that, I am reliably informed, is a tasteless but true story, and my guest is himself a loser, Ben Wicks. And he has written a book. Has it been up? Has the book been up? I don't want to plug it too much.
No, put it up. It hasn't been up. Definitely not.
Ben Wicks, The Book of Losers. Yeah. Ben, of course, is nationally known for his squiggly drawings in which he hounded Trudeau. It's in the morning edition of Pacific Press.
I know. The Globe and Mail and the Province,
In the Province.
Yes.
It's not in the Courier, is it?
I don't know what the Courier is.
You don't know what the Courier was?
No.
I see. And you're now going to entertain us so that you can sell a few copies of your Book of Losers.
I'm going to sell another pound of apples this year like I sold last year.
What was the name of your book last year?
Women. Ben Wicks Women.
Would you please stay away from your chauvinist, piggish attitude?
Well, I must say I was disappointed. Women certainly didn't seem to learn anything after a tremendous effort.
Yeah, I remember last year you were advocating the introduction of English aristocracy to improve the stock of Canadian maidens. Is that
That's
correct?
right. The idea was that they would interbreed with selected Canadian females and give us some stock that we can be proud of. Incidentally, this was English aristocrats, I might add.
Not
nothing
Scots.
to do with, no, certainly nothing like that. No, this was just pure blood, and unfortunately it failed. I couldn't get the
What
aristocrats, well, the whole program collapsed. I couldn't get the aristocrats to leave England. After I showed them various photographs of Canadian females, no one was interested. So it wasn't my fault. God, I tried my best.
All right.
I was ready to audition as well.
You have scoured the earth, I am reliably informed. In other words, you hired a clipping service.
No, I did not.
For the biggest losers of them all. And your book is about the biggest losers.
Right.
See if you can make me laugh.
Well, there's quite a few losers. There's one guy in the States. The police were called when a sound of banging was heard on an outhouse door. They arrived, managed to break down the door, and they found a man in there who was attempting to commit suicide. He was actually stuck in the seat, and as a cop that arrived on the scene said, he would have had better luck if he had gone in head first. Unfortunately, he decided feet first was the way, and so he didn't succeed. There was a bank robber.
Just a minute, he was trying to...
He was trying to drown himself, yeah. And, well, you know, everyone to their own way of going, leaving this earth. There was a guy in London, Ontario, who went in to rob a bank and decided that the worst possible thing is to run into someone that would recognise you. So what he did, he put 3 scarves around his face, plus on top of that he put a balaclava helmet. He did such a good job that when he got into the bank, he couldn't find his way to the counter. He put his hand inside his pocket to pull out the gun, and he pulled out a glass case. And by the time he'd finally finished, he staggered out of the bank, still having not found the counter, and was arrested hiding behind a car, taking off the scarves. There's a fisherman, was very unfortunate. I've split the book into parts. Losers in crime, losers in love. There was a fisherman in the sports section who was fishing in Bolivia. He threw his line, and as he did, it got entangled in a hornet's nest in a tree. The hornets rushed from the tree to attack him. So to take cover, the chap ran into the river and got eaten by piranha. Bloody tragic. And never did catch anything, as I understand it. Well, he caught some piranha. What else? Losers in love is just, it's too embarrassing to talk about on the air. It gets into sex and stuff like that. And I don't think your program is prepared for that, is it?
Can you try it with a measure of delicacy and taste?
Yes, I think so. There were a couple that were
What a
attempting
fool I am. What a fool I am.
What a fool to say that.
To tell a sexy story with delicacy and taste. I'll chance one.
Okay, there was a woman in Italy who actually cut off her husband's private part as opposed to parts. And the police were called because of this incredible scream that this man put up. He was asleep at the time in bed. She decided to take this off of him, and this dreadful scream, and by the time the police arrived, and I haven't found out why, but they found his actual object in the beak of a duck in the garden. Now, what the hell happened in between, I couldn't find out, but that was a story. There was a woman in Czechoslovakia.
He was a loser.
He was a loser, yes. Twice over. Yeah, there was a woman in Czechoslovakia, in Prague, Mrs. Chernik, who found her husband was being unfaithful. She was so unhappy and disturbed at this, she rushed to the bedroom window, threw it out open, threw herself from the window, 3 stories up, and she fell on him. He was opening the front door, killed him. She was fine, but he killed him.
She was a winner.
She was a winner. He was the loser.
I laughed.
Yeah, I noticed.
I didn't mean to.
But no, there are historical losers as well. You'll be interested in the execution of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Thought you might like that. She came to a just end, as most Scottish people do. She was executed, and as you know, and the executioner missed the first time and caught her at the back of the head. She continued to say her prayers, and he had another go, and this time the axe didn't go right through. He used the axe as a saw. By the time he'd actually finished, he held her head up to show the crowd that he'd finally done the job, unaware of the fact that she was wearing a wig. And her head fell out of the middle. He was left holding the wig, and it bounced on the platform.
She was a
into the
loser.
crowd. Well, they were both losers. The executioner as well lost his job, as I understand, after that.
I said, oh, what happened to, good one here, what happened to Lorenzo Castelli?
Lorenzo Castelli, I think, was a railway thing. You'll have to read that one out. I've forgotten.
Don't you know it all off by heart?
No, I don't know this
You
stuff.
mean you didn't even read the clippings?
No.
You just pasted them into the book?
Just face it. Oh, yeah.
When Lorenzo Castelli was struck and killed by a train, the Italian railroad sued him on charges of delaying rail schedules for 29 minutes.
That's right. That's the way. Now,
He was a loser.
You needed a good lawyer to get that kind of money.
You want to talk to people this morning? Because I'm not that keen on talking
Yes,
to you.
I'll
What have you
chat
been
to the
doing?
people.
I don't want any plugs for Mother Network, but what are you doing otherwise?
Other than working on the CBC at 12:30, 5 days a week.
Oh, shut up.
One.
Well, just a minute. I'll kill it. I'll kill that.
No,
I'll kill
no,
that.
I've been travelling about and carrying on with the drawings, these brilliant pieces of art that
I
you see
killed
in your
that.
newspaper. Oh, you did?
Yes,
that,
I did.
you? Oh, Damn, missed it again.
Yeah.
I tried to get in fast, you know. No, I've been travelling about a lot. And,
Well, I must tell you that last week I hated you.
last week, what
But
happened
having
last
the
week?
report on your new program, I'm not worried. We made a bid for Joe Clark, and we were told that we had to submit our questions in writing in advance. And then I pick up the TV guide, and I see that, well, you suit each other. Clark and Wicks on your new program. That
Yeah.
must have been a riot.
Well, it was intelligent. Actually, he said to me, he mentioned that you had requested, and he said, well, I understood why he turned you down. But we got along great.
Did you? What
Yeah,
did you
he
talk
said
about?
nice things about you.
Did you?
Very nice. I've known him for 10 years.
I see.
I took him around my area of London on a tour of London. 10 years ago, I was working on Fleet Street again, and a Canadian newspaper man said to me, I have a friend of mine coming in from Canada with his mother. Would you give him a tour? Why are you laughing? Would you give him a tour of your area of London, just by London Bridge?
How could you take anybody's mother to your area of London?
Well, I did, and as a matter of fact, we had a very safe trip, which was unusual, around the warehouses and everything. We had a marvellous evening.
What, no pubs?
And it turned out to be Joe. Yeah, we went to the George Inn and the Anchor.
You got hammered, he stayed sober.
He stayed sober. Very nice guy, and very, very intelligent. Extremely intelligent. This is why I think we
How
get
would
on
you
so
know?
well.
Webster and Ben, yeah, how would you know? Very good.
Took that from you, didn't I?
Webster and Ben Wicks. We'll pass another 10 minutes. If you want to talk to them, you can talk to them. If you don't, I'll go to the phones myself and throw them out. After the break. Ben Wicks, you've got to fill programs on Monday mornings somehow, coming out of high water. Ben Wicks has written a book called The Book of Losers. How did you gather the stuff for the book?
Well, I must confess, I was very fortunate. I set out to actually go to New York and London to visit various friends that we know in the newspaper business and find out if they had their favourites. And then I picked up a copy of my son's magazine, National Lampoon, which I don't see. And lo and behold, there on one page was a page called True Facts, and it had 5 of these things. It seems that they asked readers to send $10. They would get $10 to reader
everyone.
for sending in their favourite. I couldn't believe my luck, so I rang Sean Kelly, the editor, who's an old friend. And I said, Sean, I want to take you to lunch. So he knew the moment he knew I was buying lunch that I wanted something. I met him and he said, oh, Christ, he said, we got 10 years of that stuff. And it was just fantastic. I went back with him, got about 300, and then on to London to Private Eye and magazines like that. And within, it only took me about 15 years to get it together. There's a lot of work in a book, you know.
Instead of the sad ones about sex and the horrible ones about crime, what about some repartee? Is there any repartee? in the book? You know what repartee is, don't you?
Repartee, yeah, is all to do
Repartee.
with talking and chatting and that.
Quick responses.
Yes, yes. Well,
Repartee.
this is marvellous stuff because I've always felt that some of the greatest losers of all are those who lose out in a verbal battle, and we're not aware of this. Of course, they lose out in company so often, which makes it more embarrassing. There was a marvellous one. Dame Edith Evans was once told that Nancy Mitford, the writer, had rented a villa in France to finish a new book. To which Dame Edith Evans answered, "Oh, is that right? Which book is she reading now?" And
Good one. You've got to think about it.
yeah, that's right. You have to think
write
about
a new
it.
book.
Yeah, she was going to
Yeah.
finish a new book.
Finish a
meaning
new
right.
book. Which
Yeah.
book is she reading now?
Right.
Very good. Very good.
Noel Coward was watching television in New York at the time of the coronation, and there on the screen was Queen Salotti. For those of you who don't know of Tonga of that day, an absolutely huge woman of 300 or 400 pounds sat with a very small dignitary by the side of her. And someone said to Noel Coward, sat in the room, "Who's the chap sat with her?" And Noel Coward replied, "Her lunch."
The old cannibal
Yeah,
Queen
that's
of Tonga.
One of my favourites that's not in the book is Dorothy Parker's great line when she was visited in hospital. And I think Pam, your makeup girl, will appreciate this, having been a nurse. But Dorothy Parker, before the friend could speak, you know, she said, "Just a minute," she said, and she turned and she pressed the buzzer by her bed. And the friend said, "Why would you do that?" And she said, "I just want to ensure that we get 45 minutes of uninterrupted conversation."
One of my favourite ones, which I'll try and cut down, was about a very fat Howard Taft,
Oh, yeah.
Huge big belly. Speaking at a public dinner, and his friend Chauncey Depew made allusions to the fact that he wasn't just fat, he was pregnant. So Howard Taft looked at him and said, "It's been suggested that I am en santé. If it turns out to be a boy, I shall name it after my father. If it turns out to be a girl, I shall name it after my mother. If, however, it turns out to be, as I suspect, a bag of wind, I shall name it after my good friend Chauncey Depew."
I like
Not
that.
bad.
I should put it in the next one.
No laugh from the crew.
No, I paid them before we went on the air.
Okay,
It's just from me.
I'm
we
not.
get
You've
laughter.
done all your research.
Oh,
I've got
I
to
see. Okay.
Bring them off the top of my head.
I got to quickly.
Very good
quickly,
one from Groucho Marx, who was
Oh, yeah,
stopped,
Groucho Marx
was
is Marx.
stopped coming down an elevator by priests.
That's right. He was he was at the 4th floor, and a group of priests got into the elevator. And one of them recognised Groucho Marx and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Marx, but my mother was a great fan of yours." To which Groucho retorted, "I didn't know you guys were allowed to have mothers."
That's a good one.
Yeah. It's the speed with which these things are supposed
Are
to
delivered.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, all the famous Churchill ones, of course, to Bessie Braddock. "I'll be sober in the morning and you'll still be ugly." That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a marvellous. Everyone has their favourites, don't they?
Favourites,
And this-
yes. We all have our favourites.
Favourites.
Nobody wants to talk to this guy, Linda, do they? Does anybody want to talk to Wicks? Remember to speak up. And that's your camera. If you
Oh,
want to
right.
ham it up, that
Yeah.
one over here.
I
See?
bet it's another fan.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, Ben.
Hi.
Hi.
Next year, have you ever thought of doing a book or a series of cartoons on the soccer and calling it Whitey Cap?
Do you know, it's only that I arrived Saturday and was absolutely astonished that there was a team that was actually called Whitecaps. We haven't heard of them, you know, out east because we have so many things to concern ourselves
Did
with.
they not cover the soccer ball win?
No,
properly?
no. We've got so many important things to cover on television and in the media. We don't mess about with Vancouver. Soccer, is it you call it out here?
Jack, he must be from Toronto.
Sorry?
He must be from Toronto.
Yeah, I'm from Toronto, and of course we have a lot of things to occupy our mind, what with Ottawa and things. We haven't got time to watch soccer and mess about like you do out here.
You're
It's
not
a
with
fact.
the CBC in Toronto.
Sorry?
You're not with the CBC in Toronto.
Yes, I'm with the CBC. 12:30 to 1, 5 days. What are you doing with that buzz?
They're going to get some of those old hacks out of that CBC there.
Yeah. No, I can understand that you would want something to entertain you on the coast, and I
Sports
suppose
Weekend, we watched-
soccer is as good as anything.
Took place 3 weeks ago, last Saturday, live
Where?
on Sports Weekend here.
No, we pretend that at the East. That's a little mobile thing we set up.
We're
and
getting
pretend you're
lost.
being
Go
recognized.
ahead, please.
Yeah, you think adults are funny. Young people are very funny, too. My 6-year-old and 8-year-old daughter were sitting on the porch the other day, and they heard a siren. And the 6-year-old says, "Uh-oh, somebody's dying." And the 8-year-old turned around and said, "So what? People die every day." She went, the 6-year-old very calmly said, "Easy come, easy go."
Well, there you are, you see. Another loser went by and the kid was ready with a remark.
That's the young people's attitude today.
Oh, dear. I didn't think that was funny.
I did. I thought that was... No, that was good. Children
Was
are
it?
great for giving out. You've forgotten, for
Easy
Christ's sake.
come,
I mean,
easy go. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Wicks.
Yeah?
Sorry?
Good morning, Mr. Webster.
Yes.
I'm very interested in this author of this books of losers.
Yeah.
Well, if you would put your mouth a little back from the telephone, we'd hear you. Just back off just a little bit.
Okay.
Just about there.
Yeah, is that okay now?
That's better.
Yeah. Where can I obtain this book of?
You can buy it in any store, Ben Wicks' Book of Losers.
Yeah, you can't. Don't cut him off like that. It was a fan. How come fans I lose so bloody quickly? God, I'd speak to someone who's
Well,
going
what
to
a
attack
silly
me. They're on
question. Where
forever.
can he buy the book?
It's everywhere, every store.
You certainly can't buy it in a butcher shop.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking about it, actually. I mean, don't say that. I may have it in every
How old are
butcher
you now,
shop.
Ben?
24 going on 52.
How old are you, Ben?
Oh, 52, sorry.
Are you still married?
Yes, I am.
The same woman?
Same woman.
How many kids?
3.
3.
20-year-old, 19-year-old, and a 9-year-old who speaks French as well as what I'm speaking.
French and Cockney.
Yeah, French and Cockney.
The poor soul's got to be trilingual.
Terrible thing. I was in London last week, and my mother thinks I've lost my accent. She was very upset about it. She was.
She's crazy.
Bloody fact, yeah. 88, and she said, "Christ, what's happened to your accent?"
Yeah, what's happened to your accent? It's
Just
the fancy clothes you wear. You wouldn't walk about in London in that get-up.
Yeah, I walked about like
Well,
this.
if you do, they'll know you work for the CBC. Wicks and Webster after the break. Ben Wicks. You could hardly call him a loser. Came off the boat about 10 years ago. He stowed away from England. Came off the boat in his bare feet with his little hand barrow and a few used books. Set it up in Young Street, Toronto. Sold dirty books from underneath. Discovered.
You're thinking of when I was evacuated, when I had the little label on me saying Ben Wicks and my Mickey Mouse gas mask on my shoulder. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's the kind of image you give, the barefoot boy.
I know, but people think now I've got money. Doreen said to me last week.
Who's
she
Doreen?
My wife.
Your wife?
Doreen, terrific. She said to me, I don't understand it. How come we had more money when you were a milkman? We bleeding did. I'm working like a dog now. I used to finish at 12 every day.
Because you were in England then, and everything was in the fiddle, and you dealt in cash only.
I was a bloody musician in England.
Were you?
Yeah.
In the nightclubs in Soho?
I toured Germany and France with 9 American showgirls and a homosexual pianist for a year. I learnt a lot. Do you know, we used to entertain American troops, musically that is, and there was a marvellous review in the American Stars and Stripes, I remember, and it said about our show, at last, a show that has something for everyone. And I still remember that.
That was a 9 showgirls, a homosexual, and yourself.
Homosexual pianist. Oh, I played clarinet, just in case anyone thought I played the piano. No.
When did you get your first big break in this country?
Saturday Evening Post. I was in Calgary at the time, and I sent some stuff off to them, and they bought first time out.
They're back again now.
Yeah, I don't do anymore. Yeah, I do. It's interesting. They sent me a letter saying they'd never heard of me, wanted to buy my stuff, but would like 3 letters of reference. Blimey, it took me about 5 minutes to whip those up.
Yeah,
I put a reverend on one of them. I figured that'd do it.
Why would they want letters of reference?
Don't know, especially from me. They would have known they weren't getting the genuine article anyway.
We could have got that guy your father met in the pub when he made the deal about your...
Yeah, Elf Smith.
Was that his name?
Elf Smith was absolutely fantastic character, marvellous undertaker. If you were really well known, Elf Smith, you always knew when he had someone important. He had 2 black horses, see? Now, if you were very important, he would add 2 more. You had 4 black horses for the funeral, and the one on the right, you see, a lot of people said he bought it at a circus, because when he was at the middle of the high street, he walked with his black hat in front, see? He'd turn, take his black hat off, bow to this horse, and the horse would stand up and claw the bloody air. And you knew the guy in the back was very important. Cost you extra to have this bloody horse do this.
Wish I knew Alfie Smith.
Marvellous guy.
Gone now.
Gone now. He used to, babies, he would have this kid, this fact, cycle out to the graveyard early on before he had an adult going down there, and then very cheaply they quickly lower this little coffin down underneath, and the big coffin would go down on top. Cheaper, see?
He was
Nobody
nice,
knew.
Nice guy.
So you survived in those areas with those guys.
You've got quite a preoccupation with death.
Yes, I have, I know. It's bloody frightening, actually.
Might not be very long, you know.
Well, as I understand it, a lot of people think I'm the kind that never is going. I'm just going to come back again after a few days. In a cave up in bleeding somewhere in northern Ontario.
You won't get away with that one. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Webster.
Good morning.
Mr. Wicks. First of all, Mr. Webster, my condolences to your spleen. I trust you'll both be on speaking terms by tomorrow morning.
Yes, I hope so.
I hope so. Now, Mr. Wicks, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Why don't you write a book on Mr. Webster? Because I think the combination would be absolutely...
I'm writing the book on Mr. Webster.
You're writing the book on Mr.
Yes.
Well, if you combine forces, I'm sure it'll win the Pulitzer Prize. So
I'm going to get him to draw the pictures and I'm going to do the writing.
Go
Nobody will understand it.
Thank you, ma'am. Silly suggestion. Go ahead, please.
I think it's a terrific suggestion.
Oh, don't be daft.
Talk
Go
about
ahead,
it after.
please.
Hello, Mr. Ben Wicks.
Yes.
Can't you write a book, something really funny about the great Canadian con game known as lotteries, where the people are asked to buy tickets at chances of 1 million to 1?
Ridiculous. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's
Heard of in any other country on earth?
Well, I don't know. If you have never been to Australia, then it's true. But in Australia, they buy tickets on anything, don't they?
Yeah, but on a fairer basis.
No.
No, same. You buy your ticket. As a matter of fact, can I tell you something? Just last week, it's a marvellous story since that. Friend of ours I've known for years, works on the Montreal Gazette, a girl, had never, ever bought a lottery ticket. This will tell you how wrong you are. Never, ever bought a lottery ticket, was walking down a street in Montreal, a guy stopped her $10 for this $1 million thing, right? $10 ticket. He was so persuasive, she said, OK, I'll buy a ticket, right? She agreed to buy a ticket. And this is absolutely true. Just as she was going to buy the ticket, a breeze blew round the corner down this alley, and a couple of tickets blew over, and she took the next number down, right? Bought that. She still didn't win. I thought you'd like to hear that.
I had a guy in here last week who bought a ticket in the 15th, a $10 ticket, and he won the mid-term draw, or the mid-season draw. I gave him a check for $1 million.
Did you? You did, eh?
For
it
Lotto.
Bounced, did he?
No, Lotto's check for $1 million.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And he wasn't even excited.
No, this is how they get.
It's not real, that's what I mean. It was a real
Well, coming
check.
from you, see, you'd think
Go ahead,
that, wouldn't you?
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
I heard a story about Charlotte Whitten.
Very good, I like that.
Courtney, go ahead, please.
Oh, yes. To begin with, Jack, we all know that Scots are good engineers, right?
Yes.
What did she say?
Okay, good
Scotch are good engineers.
I can never get that accent. Sorry, carry on.
joke. It's one of these heathen ones. An Englishman, a Frenchman, and a Scot going to the guillotine.
Saw it in the province the other morning, an old story.
No, I haven't heard it.
Yes, the Scotsman
Sorry about that.
No, tell the story.
Tell it. Yeah, sure.
Tell it.
Well, I tell it anyway. Okay. The Englishman requests that when he goes to the guillotine, he would like to turn his head towards the blade. Right, so he did so, and drum roll, blade comes down within a hair's breadth of the neck, and crowd cheers, and they let him off. They say, oh, well, you know, he deserved to get let off. So the Frenchman thought he'd do the same thing. Same thing, drum roll, blade comes all the way, part way down, and again, the audience decided he should be let off. The will of God. And the Scotsman gets there, and he sits under there, and he said, oh, well, he said, if this business of turning their head the other way around is going to work, I'll do the same thing. So off he goes, and the blade comes halfway down, and he says, oh, just a minute, fellas, I think I know what your trouble is.
Not bad.
That's good, I like that. That's
Old
the kind
story.
of humor I like.
Sycamus.
Hello, I just wanted to say hi to Ben Wicks.
Hi.
You're really good, you crack me up. You're a big fan of mine, you know.
Am I? Who are you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You know, I was seriously thinking I should be busy doing my housework, and instead of that I'm watching you guys. But why don't you and Webster get together and do a show?
I know. Jack wants to, but I'm afraid I just haven't the time. But it's nice of you to suggest it.
And another thing, you could do terrific cartoons on him with that face.
Oh, I know.
You
That's
can
right.
only do one at a time. What's the point of it? All this silly
Your mother
nonsense.
could love with a struggle. It's all right for me to say that because you can't see me.
No, that's true.
No,
but I
I-
can tell you're someone extremely of high intellect.
No, she's a bandy-legged wee backle, about 4'2".
She is
She's
not.
60 pounds overweight, and she drinks a lot.
Is that true?
Was that a description of me?
Yeah.
Oh, what a cheek.
Yes, good for
Resemble
you.
that remark.
Thank you. A woman with a sense of humour.
Yeah, I love that.
Humour is a word you can't even say.
No, that's right. We have great difficulties. Male is a word I have more difficulty with.
What word?
See how
Which
difficult
one?
it is, male. You
What
know,
word?
when you post a letter, mail, you sort of mail it. You sort of M-A-L-E it, or M-A-I-L-E it, whatever you do with it.
Mao.
Mail.
Is that how you say it?
Mail, yeah.
I'm going to mile waiter.
Yeah, though it's getting better, me accent. I was in a cab last week, and the cab driver turned to me in London, and he said, what part of Australia? I said, Sydney. I figured, why? What the hell?
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Wicks.
Yes.
Yes, I was marveling at some of your comments from National Lampoon magazine. And
Yes.
I worked in the National Historic Park System. I know we had some old copies of Hansard. It'd be kind of interesting if you could publish some famous insults by such prime ministers as Diefenbaker and John A. Macdonald, because they had quite a collection of nasty insults and quick replies to political statements of the day.
Matter of fact,
Yeah, I think that's right.
A book of Canadian political wit would go down quite well. You'd have to go back a long time to get most of it, but and we've got nobody
No,
in the
but that's
House of
right.
Commons now.
No,
Nobody.
there isn't. I think politicians of that particular ilk, anyway, are dying out in general.
Television
We
kills
don't have
it.
them. Yeah, television, plus the characters are dying off, you know. The world is too fast for characters. We haven't got time to stop and
I
listen
mean,
to them.
Joe Clark, despite the fact that he's our favourite Prime Minister at the moment, he's the only one we've got, he'll never make it into a book of political wit.
No, that's true. And yet he is, just to be serious for a second, he is marvellous in the House. I think he stands and he handles himself very well in the house.
Better in the house than he is outside.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, no, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
You're a Tory, of course.
I voted Tory this time, sick of the Liberals and what had happened. And the reason why I'm pleased I did now is because I think the power of Joe Clark is in the people that he's chosen.
What
and
people?
that's where I
Hasn't
think
chosen MD yet.
Crosby and people like this, I think.
Oh, Crosby. Now, there's a
terrific
guy. You could write a book about Crosby.
The only person I know that tells me everything's going to be rotten and even worse than rotten, and I'm pleased to hear it.
Because
He's like Churchill.
He does it with a smile on his face.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that a smile he gives when he does it?
It's a newfie smile.
It's a newfie smile.
Oh, he's great.
No, there's something about that. I think that's...
It's a big improvement in what we had, anyway.
Well, I think so, yeah.
Do you think so?
Well,
Another segment with Wicks. I'm not feeling too good this morning.
yeah, let's
After
do
the
it.
break.
I'll carry the bloody show. Don't worry.
Wicks, if we had a stage, Wicks would sing and dance for us. He'd do a strip act for us. He'll do anything to put his little cockney face in front of the public and sell a few books. Now he has volunteered to show us how to draw cartoons.
Well, it's
Go into your
very
spiel.
easy.
Go into your spiel.
It really is very easy to draw, you know. You just need a certain amount of confidence. It's done with simple lines. As to drawing a person, this particular person is Trudeau. Is an interesting person because usually behind the appearance of a person, you will get some measure of the history of that person. For instance, during Trudeau's period, we made a tremendous breakthrough in the selling of wheat in China. And the reason for this was that for years the Chinese actually thought Trudeau was one of them because of the shape of his eyes. That's the reason they bought all that wheat. They said, blimey, he's one of us, you know. And it was only when it was too late, they had all this wheat bleating stored up, that they found out he was a Canadian.
Was that Trudeau?
Absolutely. Oh, thanks a lot.
Was honest?
No, that was Trudeau.
Was that Trudeau?
Yeah,
Okay.
try it again.
Try again.
Excuse me,
Show
show
me
that again. See, that's Trudeau. Isn't it? Isn't that bloody good? That's the best Trudeau I've ever done, for Christ's sake.
Show me
Okay,
Joe Clark.
Joe Clark. What you find is people take time to get accustomed. With Joe Clark, we have a sort of thing like this. So you got to do it very, very quick. And big ears with Joe, right? Like this. Little forehead, little sort of pug nose. Like that, see? Something like that.
That's Joe Clark?
Bloody hell, I'm not drawing anymore if this goes on, this criticism. Mind you, I don't like to make excuses, but this isn't the right pen, board or morning
Give me
to do
another
it.
one.
What, another drawing?
Yeah, somebody, you know.
The thing is
somebody
about...
that's easy to do.
Well, someone who's easy to do, I don't know if I... No, I can't do you.
Can you do me?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I can do you. You're bloody easy. Right. You know, the big thing about drawing to remember, Vicky, the great British cartoonist, was once asked whether there were some people more difficult to draw than others, and he said no. It's a matter of patience. He said. Eventually, they begin to look like the cartoons. So this is a matter of patience as well. You see, in about 10 years' time, if you waited long enough, this will begin to look like Jack. See, at the moment it doesn't look anything like him.
Except for the moustache, it looks quite like me.
Yeah, well, now that's the difference. If you were at a beard, beards are terrific. So it's great then. See, now it begins to look like you with a beard, which is good.
That's not bad. You're really quite skilled, you know.
Yeah, do you want to buy that?
Yeah, I'll buy. Sign it.
Okay, right. It'll be, well, it's signed, it's $20.
Is it?
Shame you asked that.
Just give me your initials then.
Just give me.
That's a buck.
I'll just give you 20 cents of it.
That's very good.
No, it isn't really. I can do a better one after if I can find a good drawing of you that I can trace.
A good drawing.
Yeah, I usually...
We'll see if we can get a drawing of you.
I think that's the value of the daily cartoons that I do, because I must say, I pick the very best to trace. I only trace from New Yorker and stuff like that.
That's right.
And I think that's important to remember.
I must say that last time you hear your wig slip, this time it stayed on quite steady.
No, it's very good, yeah.
Isn't it?
It's plugs.
Is it plugged in?
Yeah, I took this from the back of my knees, all this, and...
$25,000?
25,000 pieces here. From the back of the knees, that's the reason why I walk like I do.
That's right.
But they said I'll get over that eventually.
The naked knees. Not the naked ape, the naked knees. And you want to speak to Ben? Always surprises me. Go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever hear of Panicky Bill and the Queen Charlotte's? He used to be superintendent. An awful temper. That's why they call him Panicky Bill.
Right.
One guy climbed a tree there, and Panicky Bill, when they had the spar trees instead of steel spar, they had the spar trees them days. And as soon as he got up to the top of the tree, Panicky Bill hollered up to him, and can you see Vancouver from there? He said, no. Well, he said, you'll see her tomorrow. And then I seen him later in Port Hardy when I was working there, and I asked Panicky Bill. I worked for him twice in Queen Charlotte. When I seen him in Port Hardy, I asked him, what are you doing down here? He said, I stopped off here to get my head examined.
The first one's a good one.
Yeah, I
you,
like
you
it.
You didn't get it.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
The guy's up the top of the spar tree.
Right.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a very poor logger.
Right.
And Panicky Bill says, can you see Vancouver from there? The guy says, no. He says, never mind, you'll see it tomorrow. He's going to be shipped out of the camp back to Vancouver.
He was a loser.
A loser.
Oh.
You get it now?
Yeah. Sort of very good.
I missed the second one. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
When did you start your artistical talents? Did you start when you were very young?
No, I started when I was in Calgary, actually. I was delivering milk at the time and decided the afternoons would be better spent doing something else. And then sent this work to the Saturday Evening Post. That was the start of it.
Instant recognition.
Yeah, just about. I mean, I'm very famous. I got on a subway about 6 months ago. I was asked to go to my son's, one of my children's class things, and I went there 9 o'clock in the morning. Tremendous rush, everyone crowding around me, the kids pushing and shoving. Doreen waited in the car for me outside the school classroom, and I rushed into the car. She rushed me to the nearest subway station in Toronto, and the platform was by now deserted. There was just a woman and her young daughter was there, and as I walked by, I heard the young daughter say, "That's Ben Wicks." And I thought, this is bloody terrific, you know, get recognised. Sit on the subway, we travelled 10 stops. People nudging each other, bloody looking at me. I'm laughing now, smiling back. I'm trying to think, how is, you know, Robert Redford when he's on the bloody subway? You don't scratch your nose and all that, you know. Very thrilled. Get off at college, rush to the CBC studio, and just before I go in the studio, the guy says, "You won't need that, Ben." Takes the biggest label you've ever seen off my pocket, says, "Hi, I'm Ben Wicks." The kids have put it there. So there you are, bloody recognition.
I think you should make a book about Webster.
Yeah, we're going to do it together.
Mind your own business. After this break. Ben Wicks is a veritable mine of information.
Oh.
Hitler had bad eyes. Nelson never wore an eye patch.
Oh, there's lots of absolutely
Well, tell me
marvellous-
about that. How do you know Hitler had bad eyes?
Well, he did because they found the speeches since, and the lettering's very big. Probably the first person who was using sort of cue cards. So consequently, rather than have the embarrassment of being seen with those huge crowds wearing glasses, he would have all his speeches written out very large. Nelson never ever wore an eye patch over his eye that was missing, although he's depicted as such, but he had a special eye shield made in his hat that protected the good eye from the sun. And he was once told, handed a message that said that the head of the Navy demanded that he actually break off the action, the battle. And he said, "Give me my telescope," held it up to his bad eye and said, "I have no reason to see why we should turn off the battle." I like stuff like that. He's English, you know.
That was a Nelson touch. That wasn't England Expects.
Oh, I don't know. No, that wasn't the England Expects. That was Trafalgar, wasn't it?
Was that the Kiss Me Hardy bit?
It wasn't Kiss Me Hardy, it was Kismet.
It was
Kiss
Kiss
Me
Me
Fate.
Hardy.
It was fate. No,
It
well,
was Kiss Me Hardy.
well, the way you crowd are out on the West Coast, I've heard you all.
Who is
Kiss
in the
Me
West?
Hardy. You know, I know. It's all it. I've heard about you bleeding men out here.
I'll delete.
All with your little one earrings. Where's your earrings?
Yeah, I'll avoid the obvious remark because I'm determined not to plug your new show. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Very funny.
It's funny how that it's all sort of come land-based now. I was on a Queen Elizabeth, used to travel, and we had a guy on there called Cucumber Lil.
Were you a card sharp?
No, I was a musician on the Queen
Playing
Elizabeth.
the clarinet in the Queen Elizabeth?
Southampton to New York.
And who was Cucumber Lil?
Cucumber Lil was a guy who'd get dressed up in women's clothes every night in his cabin and hold a little party. I never did go, but I hear they were very nice parties.
Nice parties.
Nice
Cucumber
parties,
Lil.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. The world's full of them nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Losers in sports. Give me a story.
Losers in sport, blimey, I can't think of one. Give me a loser
I'll
in
give you
sport.
one.
All right, you give me
The English boxing champion Jim Mason and an American challenger Joe Coburn danced around each other for 3 hours and 48 minutes without landing a single punch.
That's right, yeah.
Was that the old bare knuckle days?
Yeah, that's right. And there was another guy who got so mad during a boxing match that he actually bit off the other guy's nose.
No kidding.
Yeah, bit it right off. There's a woman who cut off her husband's nose in the middle of the night. He said she was jealous when they were sewing it back on.
When Evelyn Sullivan, 54, of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, blew her nose one Saturday night, a .22 caliber bullet came out.
Yeah, it did, out of the end of her nose.
A hunter had hit her in the nose and she hadn't
No,
even
it
felt
stood by the doorway and it ricocheted and went straight up her nose.
It's just bloody crazy, isn't it?
Oh, it's a terrific world we're living in. You've got to be careful when you're standing at your doorway and I'll hold your handkerchief to your nose.
Women in a place called Ugly, England, changed the name of the community organisation from Ugly Women's Institute to the Women's Institute Ugly Division.
I think only in England would they do that. I mean,
It's somebody with a sense of humour. Oh, phone calls.
Oh, phone calls.
Forgot all about them.
Probably Joe Clark. It's probably Joe. Hi, Joe. No.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hello, Ben.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Probably a towner here. You've got some support. So, nice to see you on the Jack Webster program. Anyway, listen.
Thank you very much.
Did you used to go to the Alma School,
Used to
Southwark Park Road?
Sorry?
The Alma School in Southwark Park Road.
Did I know? I don't think so.
No.
No, I went to Charles Dickens School.
I know. Yes, a Millwall supporter too, eh?
I was a Millwall supporter. You're quite right. I still am. Millwall supporter.
A what?
A Millwall. Now, that's a real soccer team.
That is. I used to stand near you.
Millwall.
Oh, they had a lot of bad luck last season.
Millwall.
And they did the season before. But they're a very good team.
Millwall.
Millwall, Jack, is quite a good team. I mean, you can't blame the crowds for the, what you read in the papers, but they are a good team.
They used to have a drunken goalkeeper. I won't mention his name, who would, when the game started, walk to the goal, stand what he thought was in the middle of the goal, and he was about 2 foot from one post and about 18 foot from the other.
That was when football was really football.
That's right, not like the Whitecaps play it and all that bloody nonsense.
Webster and Wicks after the break. From Nanimo to Ben Wicks, himself a loser, the Book of Losers.
Oh, bleeding
Go ahead.
I'm the only one who's not.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I enjoy your humor very much, and I've been following your cartoons for a long, long time.
Thank you.
And you have a kind of English sense of humor, and it's quite appalling from some things, and especially when you portray the Cockney humor is excellent.
Yeah, I think, on the subject of humour, the thing I've found, though, is I think humour is much more universal than we give it credit for. For instance, that Andy Capp is so big here. Obviously, people enjoy it in America. Yeah. And the All in the Family programs like this that go international, and people seem to enjoy it. So I think humour is pretty basic.
Yeah, I wrote a book of poems ready for publication called poems by Canadian troubadour, and they're all comical poems, political and everyday life. I'll just tell you a short one. Elevator lady said to the elevator girl said to the old lady, "Did I stop too fast?" "No," she said, "I wear my panties always on half-mast."
Do you know what I love about these is when people give you these ideas, you see. I mean, they're terrific, and in the next book, they'll all go under my name. That's what I like about them.
A bus company in England,
Yeah.
the company bulletin. It is impossible for the drivers to keep to their timetable if they have to stop for passengers.
Yeah, that was actually brilliant. Isn't that fantastic, though? Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Wicks.
Good morning.
You're the most refreshing thing that's hit the boob tube this year.
Well, that's lovely of you. Thanks very much.
I wanted to know if you knew about the book called The Dictionary of Canadianisms. You might get a lot of good ideas from that.
Really? Yeah, well, I'll look out for it. Thanks for letting me know.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you for the...
Thank you.
Right.
You're so suave.
Yes, well, I am with the girls, you
Oh, you
know.
really
If you
are
notice with
suave.
girls, the men I'm rough.
I know, suave. Go
Swavey.
ahead, please.
Swavey.
Morning, Mr. Webster.
All right.
How are you?
Yeah, well.
Oh, that's good.
But I'm terrific if you want to talk to me.
Yeah. I want to talk to both of you. I have a little sense of humor here.
Yeah.
It's a little short story about a police officer and a man on a motorcycle. This man on a motorcycle, he was waiting at a long light. And this police officer, he was on the other side of the light watching this guy. He was waiting there for a long time, and he pulled out a pair of knitting needles.
Yeah.
So he started knitting and knitting away. Then the light turned green, and then the guy put his knitting needles away. I started going past the light, and the guy says, this police officer says, pull over, pull over. And the guy says, no, I made a cardigan.
Oh, my God. Puns is something that I really am not fussy about. Are you? Do you like puns?
No, I don't like puns.
No, I'm not really fussy about puns, unless they're very, very good, like pullover knitting jokes. When you get them like that, they're very good. But others I don't like.
Keep talking.
Oh, I'm going to keep talking. Okay. I know I've got many, many fans out there, and many of you have been writing to ask for photographs, but unfortunately, I just haven't the time. I'm so busy. But if you would like to start sending and asking for photographs now, I have a little spare moment. They're $40 each. That's a 8x10 glossy. They're very, very nice. And of course, please send me a stamped addressed
A
envelope.
London doctor said,
Yeah.
we operated just in time. Another 2 days, and he would have recovered without us.
No.
My thanks, Ben. You are a gem.
Well,
I wish you nothing but the worst on your well on the book, and nothing but disaster on your television program on Old Mother Corporation. My
lovely
thanks
seeing
to
you
Benny Wicks, the barefoot boy from Camden Town. After the break.
Southwark.
After the break.
Right, okay.
Linda? To plug other than talk.
30 seconds
No, we'll just gossip.
Oh, look at my hair stick.
Can't be helped. Linda, well, we're back. This is our first day of our second week.
That's right.
Of the second season of 90 minutes of prime time at 9 a.m. I don't feel like I'm quite back yet, somehow or other. How do you feel?
Oh, I'm back.
You're back.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning we have a number of odds and ends on the book, but we're working on a couple of stories today with which we hope to be able to entrance you tomorrow morning. My thanks to Linda and everyone else on the show, and you, tomorrow 9 a.m. precisely.